Da-da-da-da-da. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today's guest is going to be demonstrating a healthy, easy, delicious recipe, collard wraps with guacamole. Her name is Angie James. She has great initials, by the way, AJ. I'm meeting her from the first time today. She's from Michigan, and she has a wonderful story to tell about her journey becoming plant-based. Please welcome to the show my new other friend, AJ, Angie James. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. And I am so glad to be here. And my story is kind of a bit circuitous because I was going to the gym like 4 days a week and listening to my trainer about all the things I should be eating, trying to put on muscle. And in the midst of all that, my son went to medical school. And unlike most medical schools, he actually did learn about whole food plant-based nutrition. And he came home for his last year from medical school and took a look at his dad and actually said, "Dad, I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you want to live to see your grandchildren grow up, you got to change what you're doing." So he actually gave him the book, How Not to Die by Dr. Greger, and said, "Dad, just read it." And so he took it and he read it. And I mean, he had tried all kinds of diets. He was about 50 pounds or so overweight, high blood pressure, high stress job, really sedentary job. And so he came back to me and he says, "Angie, if I'm going to do this, I need your help because I can't cook." And I really, at that point, was not that interested in changing what I was doing. I thought I had a healthy diet. So we went on a trip to Mexico and I read Dr. Greger's book. And to be honest, it scared me to death. I had been eating probably 200 grams of protein a day. I had been really with the whey shakes and the whole thing the whole thing the trainers tell you to do. And I was really afraid that I'd already done some kidney damage or whatever. But in the process, Steve, you want to come here for a minute? I keep getting can you see those notifications? Okay. He went from this to this in about 8 months, going whole food plant-based. Blood pressure went back down to normal, lost a good 45, 50 pounds, could run again. His knees weren't aching, his back wasn't aching. And we've been whole food plant-based for almost a little over 3 years now.
That is incredible. Is your son a doctor now, or is he still in medical school?
He is finishing his last year of residency on July 1st.
And what great medical school taught him this? I'd love to know.
He went to Western University of Health and Science out in Oregon. And he actually did a lot of self-education, but they were very open to letting him self-educate. So he's a really smart guy. I have 2 docs in my family. My daughter's a doctor at physical therapy. My other daughter is a professional counselor. So they've got me covered.
What kind of doctor is your son going to become? Has he decided?
Family practice.
And will he be using principles of lifestyle medicine in that?
When people are open to it, yes. Unfortunately, It's like a lot of the other doctors, people would rather just take a pill than change what they eat, unfortunately.
Oh boy, well, maybe we'll have him on the show. That's amazing. I love that it was your kid that brought this to you. So people are asking where you're located and that your kitchen is beautiful, they're saying.
Oh, well, thank you. We are in Grand Blanc, Michigan, which is in the county of Genesee County. And Genesee County is actually the second highest in poor health in Michigan. And so one of the reasons I got so passionate about this is I'm sure you've seen the movie The Sixth Sense, where Haley Joel Osment says, "Oh, I see dead people." I joke and say everywhere I go, people.
Wow, that's something. How did your son learn about the whole food plant-based if it wasn't taught to him in medical school? Did he read a book? Did he see a documentary?
I think he read Proteinaholic first by Dr. Garth Davis, and then somehow got introduced to the book by Dr. Greger. And from there, I am honestly, when he told me about it, I will be completely transparent. I set out to prove him wrong. I thought, this can't be right. How can I have never heard about this? This has to be some quack doctor. I just don't believe it. And I read the China study. I read Garth Davis. I read Dr. Greger. I read Dr. Esselstyn. I read Dr. Campbell. I just did all of my research and found out, you know what? The kid's right.
Yeah, and I think he may have taken some alternative classes to get just a basic introduction, and then some reading that was recommended. But he did recommend it to me, and it's worked. It's 3 years, taken off and held the weight off. And then I told Angie, as she said earlier, that she needs to read Dr. Greger's book. And after both of us read it, we were sold on it. And proof is that we're leading a healthier lifestyle and can do all the things that we want to do. And it's been just a great thing. And I couldn't do it without Angie and doing all the cooking for me. I don't cook, but I can prepare something if I pull it out of the refrigerator. So Angie does all the cooking and takes good care of me.
Right. So you have very good heating up skills, in other words.
That's right. That's my
That microwave. And we always beans and rice and usually veggie burgers and a soup or two in the refrigerator so that he can pick whatever he wants to warm up and eat. So when he has oatmeal with oat groats every single morning for breakfast, that's his preference, with blueberries and raspberries and walnuts and pumpkin seeds. And I mean, just about everything, trying to get those 30 different plants in there every morning.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I didn't realize I could do. And that was eat a go-to meal. And there's a couple of go-to meals that I go with. One is, as Angie said, oatmeal for breakfast, and then beans and rice and some kind of burrito bowl, what I call. But I always thought that you needed variety every day and couldn't have the same thing 2 days in a row. And what I found is that I can, and you feel better. I always feel better after a good meal, a whole field plant-based.
I mean, our pets eat the same thing every day. They don't complain. I know this need for variety is really overrated, and especially people that struggle with weight variety, it makes it even more challenging. Dr. McDougall even says he and Mary eat pretty much the same thing every day.
Yeah, it is possible, even for people that crave different types of foods.
Yeah. So did you have any health challenges before going plant-based and losing these 50 pounds? Did you ever want to lose weight before?
Yeah, I was on the roller coaster of, being in Michigan in winter, you're less active, gaining weight, and then in the spring working to get it off. Eventually I was traveling a lot and eating out all the time. And that was the biggest challenge with going whole food plant-based, was finding good food choices while I was traveling. But yeah, all the things that are associated with being overweight, high blood, things of that sort, where you really struggle with getting up the stairs or playing with the grandkids or whatever, you're not out of breath. And the whole food plant-based has just kind of leveled everything out, and it's made it a lot more consistent. I've been at the same weight for 3 years, and although I do have a few more pounds I could lose, and I will, I feel good about the consistency.
That's fantastic. Well, you look great.
Well,
Did any of your friends notice the change in
Oh
your
yeah, oh absolutely. The friends notice, family notices. Although we're there, it's a hard sell for friends and family, because they're just immersed with different diets and are comfortable with different food choices. And although we're pretty consistent, Angie and I, it is difficult to get folks on board 100%.
Well, it must be so much easier having a son and a spouse that's on board. What about your two daughters? Did they go plant-based when they learned this?
My one daughter goes mostly plant-based, but she still does have the occasional meat, eggs. Her husband was on American Ninja Warrior, and he has a very hard time keeping his weight up. And so he does tend to eat more off the regimen, but they eat very clean and very healthy. And they're raising my grandson, who's not quite a year old, to be mostly plant-based. My other daughter, not so much. She's married to a meat lover. And it's really hard. And it's hard when you've got 3 little ones, 7 and under, to have the time that I have to prep food and keep it ready and keep on top of the groceries and all those types of things as well. And I've gotten it down to where I prep on the weekend. Usually Saturday's my big prep day. And then I might have one day during the week that I have to prep another batch of rice or something small. But I try to get all of it done. And then always I'm 2 or 3 times at the grocery store to get fresh fruits and vegetables because they just don't seem to last as long. So that is hard for her, having little ones in the COVID situation too, trying to get to the grocery store with kids and masks and all of those kinds of things. So, but hopefully we do, when they come here, I do give those options. They love grandma's spaghetti. They love grandma's sweet potato chips and nacho chips that I make. And they do try things, but they aren't sold on it just yet.
Well, if your son has children, then maybe they'll be the plant-based ones.
Maybe, yeah. He's very, in fact, it was funny because when he would come home before we went plant-based, he'd say, Mom, if you're making spaghetti, would you mind leaving the meat to the side? Or would you mind cooking the meat separately? Or take mine out before you add the meat? And I really was like, what's up with him and meat? He always ate meat. And it was just his way of not being pushy, but still wanting to eat the way he felt made him feel the best and was the healthiest.
Well, I love him already. Let's get him on. He sounds amazing.
He's in Traverse City right now. And like I said, his birthday is July 1st, and he actually finishes his residency on his birthday. And he's not quite sure where he'll be next, but he is in love with the Pacific Northwest. So he'll probably be somewhere out there.
Well, that's where Dr. McDougall is. Well, have him contact me. I really would love to have him on the show. He sounds amazing. So here's an interesting question from Dina, who's watching live. Why did your son approach Dad only initially and not Mom? Were you already in good shape and eating well?
I was in good shape. I went to the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I lifted weights. I don't think he was worried about me. He had mentioned to me a couple of times, Mom, I think you're eating way too much protein. I don't think you need that much protein. You might want to read Proteinaholic. But he also knows that I have to really research and do my own self-education. I guess it's the teacher in me. I've been retired now. I retired last June from teaching for 25 years. So it's just the whole self-education piece for me, and trying to listen to your trainer and other people who you think know about nutrition, and you find out later that they don't really. But I think he was more worried about his dad because of the high blood pressure, hurt him hardly making it up and down the stairs. He couldn't run anymore because his knees had gotten so painful. And I think he was just really worried about how heavy his dad had gotten.
Well, that makes sense. That's great. So did you cook a lot before you went plant-based?
Yes, I cooked, but I cooked your traditional standard American diet. We always had either chicken or turkey or beef or something to go with it. We did always have vegetables, and I did eat fruit. But just like anybody else, I always thought you had to have meat as a main course. What's funny now is, like, we have Easter dinner coming up on Sunday, and I am always now the designated huge salad bringer. So I never have to worry about not having anything to eat because I always bring one of my big wood bowls full of salad, and everybody enjoys the salad. And even his family, when they try the whole food plant-based recipes, they like them. They just can't quite get past the, I can't believe you don't eat meat thing. So it's a process, and based on how healthy he's gotten. He does have a sister that suffers from MS, and she really watches what she eats as well. But I think it's hard when you hear, like, I forget which doctor said it, but people love to hear good things about their bad habits. And when they hear, the keto diet, and they hear the paleo diet, and they have doctors going on saying, beans are bad for you because of lectins, and they're kind of like, well, you can find a study to prove whatever you want to prove. And so I said, but these are 5 different doctors that all came from different fields, that were all studying different diseases, that all came up with the same answer. It fixes everything. But there's just a hesitancy. I'm sure you run into it too as well. And people that you meet, they just can't believe that you can not eat meat.
Now, what are you making for Easter?
I'm not sure what they're having. I'm making a huge salad, and I will probably take a whole food plant-based dessert. I always try to slide in a couple of things to take down with me so that they can try different things, different types of desserts. Yesterday, I experimented with a mint chocolate chip ice cream that I think everybody would really like, that I might take down on Sunday. It was from Nutmeg Notebook, her recipe with, it's just plain bananas and spinach and mint leaves, and then the a little bit of vegan chocolate, whole, the cacao, and it turned out quite good. So I may take some of that down, but I'm still trying to find different things. They notice the texture different mostly. Most of the times when you make a dessert that's got the dates or doesn't have the highly refined flours, it's a little denser. It's not quite as fluffy with all the eggs and the oil and everything in it. So I think trying to get them to taste it and realize that get past the texture thing has been an issue as well.
Yeah, I agree. Tell us about your YouTube channel. And I guess you can't really teach cooking classes right now because of the pandemic.
Right. And so what I decided to do was to go ahead and try to do some demonstrations on YouTube and to make them shorter, because I noticed, a lot of times when I'm watching people do a demo, and I noticed you used to do this too, you chop things ahead of time. You didn't make someone sit and watch you chop for 20 minutes or saute for 15 minutes. You kind of take a break and come back, which keeps the videos nice and short so that you can give a full demonstration, but not have to have somebody spend 30, 45 minutes watching you make whatever you're making. My biggest difficulty was overcoming the technology challenges. And I tutor in my home, and I have an 8th grade student who loves videography, and she is my videographer. She's my editor. She publishes on YouTube. She does all of my transitions. So that's how I've been able to do that. And it's been a real blessing.
You should introduce her.
Izzy, come here.
Chef AJ, thanks for having us on. It was great meeting you in live person.
My pleasure. Congratulations on all your success.
Well, thank you.
So this is Isabel, and she does all of my videography, all of my editing. She spends at least 2 to 3 days a week with me because she's now on virtual school, and comes up with all the clever floating spinach leaves at the end of my presentations, and helps me when I have to have the retake for the 3rd time because I can't say the word episode or waffle and get it right. But yeah, so that's who helps me. And Isabel's dad has an interesting story, because your dad's what, about 40? And he had a really, really, really bad back and had surgery and had 3 rods actually put from his hip to the base of his spine. And when he went in, he thought he was pretty healthy. He ended up having triglycerides over 1,600, fatty liver disease, and he was diabetic. And so immediately I started talking to him, and within 2 weeks on the whole food plant-based diet, his triglycerides went from 1,600 down below 200. And his blood sugar leveled out the next time he went to the doctor. And his inflammation, he could hardly stand and talk because of the inflammation, went way down. So he's lost 25 pounds. He feels great. And it's just nice to be able to help people and realize that you don't have to live on medication. You can get healthy. I have scoliosis, and I have osteophytes in my back. I have a lot of osteoarthritis. And before I went whole food plant-based, I had actually been on anti-anxiety medicine for about 19 years. I had gotten to the point where I was having steroid injections and rhizotomies in my back. I was on Gabapentin and Robaxin and AdvilPM to sleep at night. And within 3 months on the whole food plant-based diet, I went off everything. So there's a lot of reducing that.
That's fantastic.
And that was really kind of what sold me on it. And I really experimented a little bit. I would eat, I'm going to eat some whey protein today and just see if it's my imagination. Within 6 to 8 hours, the pain was back. The inflammation was back. So it really doesn't take long to find out that's exactly what's causing the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, people feel so good when they do it, but then for some reason they get drawn back into the pleasure trap.
It is. And it's hard. I've found ways and places I can go out to eat where I just tell them a little white lie. I tell them that I am deathly allergic to oil and that I will go into anaphylactic shock if I get any oil in my food at the restaurant. And they're really good about making sure that you don't die. So we go to like P.F. Chang's, they'll do the steamed rice, the steamed bootable, and it's very, very good. I tell them, I don't want any butter, no salt, nothing, just the steamed vegetables. So it was really, really nice. to be able to go to places and actually not have to do all the chopping and cooking for every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jody Lynn is watching and says, "Hey, Angie, local PBNSG pal." So you got some fans watching. Are you still an avid going to the gym person 3 or 4 times a week?
4 days a week to work with a trainer. That's one of the things that really helps with my back, is making sure I stay flexible and I stay strong and I don't lose muscle mass. If you don't have strong glutes and legs, your lower back has to work a lot harder than necessary to keep you upright. So my trainer, Chris, keeps me going. He's great. He teases me a lot about not eating meat, but he has really changed and started eating a lot more vegetables now that he sees I haven't just like all my muscle disappeared when I stopped eating meat. And that I'm just as strong as I was before. So that was fun.
Was it hard for you or your husband at first to transition to this new way of eating taste-wise?
I think what he missed the most was the taste of salt and that satiation from the fat that you get from meat. But what's funny now, if I eat any fat, or if I get oil by accident, I'm housebound. My body just I can't leave because of the issues it causes in my digestive tract, which is amazing that it could actually cause that many problems. But he's a little bit more able to cheat here and there than I am. But I can't. I mean, my body pays for it almost immediately if I go off plan. Yeah. Or if I do it intentionally, but I get it by accident. It's just been a godsend with me, the back pain, to find something that really reduces that inflammation.
Yeah. And Dr. Goldhammer loves people like that have symptoms so quickly, because it usually helps them stay compliant.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It really keeps you focused and asking questions at restaurants, because you don't want to be out somewhere and then need to go home because you accidentally get something that's going to upset your stomach. But what I found is making sure that I have a lot of variety. We always loved Mexican food. That's really easy to transition to. I had to up my spice game because I really wasn't very good at mixing spices or knowing what spices went with anything. I probably have, oh my gosh, at least 40 different cookbooks, including both of yours and your Date with Dessert. I have all of them by Dr. Greger, all of them by Dr. Esselstyn, and just going through those recipes and tweaking it to suit our flavor buds or our taste buds, so that my husband puts hot chili pepper flakes on just about everything, or a hot sauce on everything. So he likes food very spicy. So we do a lot of more a marinara sauce. I did a marinara sauce last week on one of my channels, to where it has no oil. And you really have to get used to using those spices. But once you get with the spices, you don't miss the other stuff. There's so much flavor. And I think the biggest thing we found is how sweet fruit is now. I mean, before, an apple, okay. But now you eat that apple or you eat that grape, and it's just, you can taste the sugar. It's just so sweet and so satisfying. And I, like you, use a lot of Hannah yams. And they're just so sweet and they're so satisfying that you really aren't hungry afterwards.
Yeah, they're so satiating. And I find that things are like dates are just so sickly. I can't believe somebody that would have Coke Slurpee for breakfast for 43 years with 8 pumps of vanilla syrup. Now I made something from my book, my date shake, 3 dates. And I'm like, ugh, it was too sweet. I couldn't believe it.
Mine is the salt. If I go anywhere, it's usually like, I feel like I'm drinking the ocean.
Yeah.
But salt is just so strong and everything. And they do that to save on ingredients. Salt is cheap. It's a lot cheaper than some of the better ingredients are. And you can make anything pretty much taste good if you put enough salt on it, I guess,
That's right. Dr. Furman said if you took those packing peanuts and fried them up in some oil and put some, Parmesan cheese on them, they'd be delicious. That's sugar, fat, and salt, right?
That's right. And I find it so interesting when I tell people that those 3 things, sugar, fat, and salt, appear nowhere together in nature.
That's right. Not together anyway, for sure, except maybe breast milk. And that's like from, for just a year that you're supposed to have that. So yeah, it's so great that you get it. Is it inappropriate to ask how old you are?
I will be 61 on May 1st.
Yeah, you look amazing.
Well, thank you. And I know that like I said, I retired, and my husband also retired this past. And we're just having a lot of fun now doing things that we want to do. And today I will be making guacamole. I know a lot of people try to avoid the extra fat with avocados, but you really don't put that much on the colored wraps when we make it. It's just kind of a base for it. And I do sometimes, I eat a few nuts here and there. He puts walnuts on his oatmeal, just like Dr. Greger talks about, and he puts pumpkin seeds on his oatmeal. I am not as, I'm a lot smaller than he is, and I can't get away with it as much.
I love that you said that, because we had Plantable Kiki on yesterday, and people have to understand not all us gals can eat even a small amount of these nuts and seeds without getting larger.
Right. Or compensate. I mean, you could do it once in a while if you compensate for it later and you know you're going to do and you plan ahead. But most of the time, a tablespoon or two here or there, and that's it.
I'm not willing to make the trade for starch, though, because the nuts
Right.
don't satisfy me, and they just make me want more nuts, whereas the Hannah yams do. Even they're getting pretty sweet lately.
They're very sweet. I can't believe when people, they look at it and they say, that's not a sweet potato. I say, it's a white sweet potato. And yes, they're even sweeter than the orange sweet potatoes. And they're not nearly as hard. When I make my sweet potato chips, they grate so much easier. They slice so much easier than the orange sweet potatoes do. And they taste so much better.
Yeah, I agree. Dina wants to know if you do tofu.
Yes, I do. We will eat it occasionally. And I also eat tempeh occasionally. I will make the tempeh bacon, or the tempeh with the tofu, seasoned tofu, to put in a few things. I'll make a tofu scramble for breakfast every once in a while that I put like in a burrito wrap. I don't eat a lot of it, but I'm not afraid to eat it. It's good. It's just by the time, usually I'm rushing, and by the time you open it and you press it and you drain it and you're ready to season it and all that, it takes a little bit of extra time. But we do like it. And when I make my Asian bowls, I'll put some seasoned tofu in it.
That sounds great. Well, collard wraps. So do you use them raw or do you steam them? Because I've seen it go either way with chefs.
I use them raw. And I try to find the absolute biggest leaves that I can find, because they make it easier to wrap them like a burrito. And the other thing is, it's really important to make sure you have some cling wrap down before you start them, because it's really hard to move the whole thing under the cling wrap if you forget. And I've done that a few times. But I'm going to make the guacamole first. And I know everybody pretty much has a favorite recipe for their guacamole, but I never even liked guacamole until I had this recipe, which I got from my son. And it's very, very simple. Now when he does it, he usually puts cilantro in it. But my husband is one of those genetically predisposed people that cilantro tastes like dirty feet or soap. And so I can't put cilantro in anything that he eats, because he just cannot stand even the smell of cilantro. So I don't put that in my guacamole, but you can add cilantro to it. I like it, but it's just easier to not make separate for both of us. I don't miss it that much when I don't have it. So I'm just scoring the avocado, and this calls for 2 avocados. And this batch of guacamole literally will last us for over a week in the refrigerator. So it's a couple, maybe a tablespoon he puts in his burrito bowl, or just sort of as an accent. I will put it on a salad. I know Dr. Greger says it's great to have a little bit of fat with your greens to help them multiply their effects. So that's the way I use it. I'm not one to sit and just eat avocado. I've never enjoyed the texture. It's always been a texture thing for me. And I think the color too, maybe a little bit. But I do enjoy this recipe. And it's just 2 avocados that I dice and put in the bowl and get ready to mash up. 1 jalapeno pepper that's minced. About 1/8 to 1/4 of a red onion, depending on the size of your red onion. I try to put as much red onion as I do jalapeno. 1/2 teaspoon of Benson's Tasty Table, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and the juice of 1 fresh lime. And to me, the fresh lime is what really made the difference with me liking the guacamole. In fact, I've had several people that have told me they don't like guacamole, and I've challenged them and said, well, would you be willing to taste my guacamole? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so good. What did you put in it? And it really is that fresh lime. The fresh lime juice just gives it a whole nother dimension of flavor. And then you just mash all of that together and stir it up. And that's the guacamole recipe. And I use this to put on the base of the collards. It does kind of give the vegetables something to stick to and adds a little bit of moisture. I'm also going to be using some balsamic glaze, and I don't remember if there was one ingredient I forgot to put in the recipe before I sent it to you, and I'm not sure what it was, but I do use balsamic vinegar on this, and I use a fruit flavored one because of the mango in it, but it's really, really yummy on the wraps.
Have you ever tried California balsamic?
Yes, I have, but it's really it's so far away from me in Michigan. And Michigan has a company called Fustini's, and Fustini's also makes all of the fruit infused balsamic vinegars. And so that's where I tend to get mine because it's just a little bit easier. It's only 45 minutes away and I go and load up, or I have my son who lives in Traverse City. Bring me 3 bottles of the Asian blackberry balsamic vinegar when you come home, and he'll bring them for me.
Well, you're going to get 2 free bottles of flavors of your choice from California Balsamic just for appearing on Chef AJ Live. So you'll be able to try some new flavors.
And I have ordered from them. I love their, I believe they have one that's an herb cilantro or cilantro and something. I've had that one, and it's really, really good. So the first thing you want to do with your collard wraps is you want to get rid of this great big huge vein. And it's just a little tough to chew. I mean, I guess you could keep it in, but it makes it really hard to chew. And so I take the biggest leaves I can find, and then I just simply slice out that big long vein. And now I'm going to use my cling wrap. And I don't use a lot of plastic wrap in my house, but I'm telling you what, this is a lifesaver when it comes to making these collard wraps. And I overlap them and make sure the seam kind of covers up. Put one on each end. And if you can't find nice big leaves, sometimes what I'll do is take a smaller leaf and just center it in the middle so that all of the goodness doesn't split through the leaf when you put it down. So I'm going to take, these aren't quite as big as what I normally like to get. So I'm going to take another little piece and just flick it right there in the middle. Then I like to take my spatula and I'm going to just smear. Now this makes, usually my husband and I will share one of these for dinner. So it makes a large serving. And I just put about that much, maybe 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons of the guacamole on it. And now we're going to start layering. And what I like to do is use my mandolin. And I take and I make very, very thin strips of my English cucumbers. Sort of like you're making
aren't you using a glove? Don't you think you should use a mandolin glove to be safe?
I used to, and now I kind of just judge how far down I go.
I've seen so many thumbs come off.
I do have a glove, but I tend to be it's hard to wrap these with the big glove on.
You can take the glove off after you use the mandolin. You know, safety first, my friend. Hey, so there's a question for a couple people said they can't eat raw collards. Could you use romaine, or do you have another suggestion for a wrap?
You could probably use romaine or Swiss chard. I'm not sure if it might be too bitter, or any other big leafed green. I haven't, just because I like the collard, the taste of the collard. You could probably even use cabbage, which would be a very similar texture. You just probably would have to layer the leaves more, and it would make it a little bulkier to try to roll up. Then after I have my cucumbers, I have julienned some sweet red peppers, and I have a mango. And I'm going to use my mandolin again to make some nice thin slices of my mango. With the mango, you have to be a little careful that you know where the seed is so that you don't accidentally shave the seed into your wrap. And then I will take and layer those, or sometimes I even slice them a little thinner on top. Then I take my shredded carrots and layer those. This is so good. I got something similar to this at a restaurant in St. Augustine when we went down for a wedding one time. And I came back and I said, oh my gosh, I've got to duplicate that recipe. And so it took me a while to figure out what I like, but these are so good and they go together so easy. Then I mandolin some red onion. Of course, if you don't like red onion, you can leave the onion off. And I layer the red onion. And then the sprouts. And these are broccoli sprouts. I love broccoli sprouts more than I do any other sprout, just because they have that nice peppery flavor that they add. Now here comes the challenging part. I used to work at a taco place, but you're going to wrap it sort of like you would a burrito or a sushi roll. You're going to tuck in your edges. Whoops, I almost forgot. Got to put my balsamic glaze on there. So after I have all that, I drizzle it with my balsamic vinegar, then I wrap it. And here's where the cling wrap really helps you keep it all together, also for presentation purposes. Just wrap it around while you're holding it together. Tuck in those plastic ends. Nice and tight. And then I like to take a knife, just give it a nice diagonal slice. And you have a beautiful collard wrap. And I like to serve it, just a second, with my sweet potato chips. You could also use salsa and some other homemade nacho chips, but this makes a very filling and satisfying lunch. It's very, very good. And we like to have them in the summertime. I was trying to think of something that would be a little more like spring or summer when I came on, and something that maybe somebody else hadn't already done. And we woke up this morning to snow. So it was hard to think of a spring or summer dish, but when we woke up to snow this morning, but that is what I would serve for my collard wraps.
That is stunning. Absolutely beautiful. Dina's saying, do you eat one or both of them? She said she could eat both. It's very calorically dilute. You could probably eat more than two.
But if you were really, really hungry, I find that by the time there's a lot of chewing involved with the collards. So I find by the time I get through the one half, I'm usually full. Especially if I have like an apple or a piece of fruit with it, sort of a dessert. But even my husband will eat a half. They are quite filling. It depends on how big the leaf is that you get and then how much you can put inside it. But they are they are so good. And the balsamic vinegar, a glaze with that, and the avocado and the onion, the sweet, the sour, it is just so good together.
That looks stunning. And a couple of people are saying they can't have avocado. So maybe they could do avocado made out of peas, like in my book Unprocessed, or maybe use another schmear like a hummus or something.
Yes, I've tried a hummus. You can make like any kind of a hummus would go on it. It's just something that helps the veggies kind of stick to the collard wrap a little bit.
That makes sense. Somebody
good.
asking what Benson's Table Tasty is. It's a salt-free seasoning that I particularly like, and you can get it on Amazon or in my Amazon store or at bensonsgourmetseasoning.com. I believe it's 10% off if you use the code AJ. So how do you make your sweet potato chips?
They're called Mastrad. Izzy, would you grab the chip maker?
I have the Mastrad, the one the black thing with the holes that goes in the microwave.
Yes, that's what I do. I shave them down to about 1/8 of an inch. It was my very first YouTube video, as a matter of fact, were these sweet potato chips. And I stack them 4 high in the microwave. And everybody's microwave is a little bit different. I start off with 8 minutes and 30 seconds. And then I rotate them and do like another 6 minutes, and then rotate them and like another 4 minutes. And when they start looking like this, they're done. They crisp up after you let them sit too. Don't try to cook them until they're crisp or you will burn them. But then I let them sit out and they crisp up. There's no oil, there's no salt, there's no nothing. It's just golden sweet potato, Jersey potato. And I've tried the purple sweet potatoes and I tried the orange sweet potatoes. Honestly, they kind of taste like dirt. They just don't do the same as the hand yams when you make the chips with them. So I would recommend using only the white sweet potatoes to make the chips.
Well, I always say that for any recipe, I think they're unparalleled in texture and taste. Unfortunately, there are people that live some places that can't find them. Lauren's saying, do you think you can do them in the dehydrator as well?
They did not work as well. I have an Excalibur dehydrator. In fact, I should show you. You want to point? I have just about all the tools that you've ever recommended, Chef AJ. I have the Nutrimilk. I have 4 Instapots. I have the Breville Air Smart Oven. I've got all the toys. But me, when I talk to my husband, and he doesn't even ask anymore, he'll say, did you order? Yep. Because when he does his woodworking or his crafts in the garage or his things, he doesn't go to Kmart and buy a Kmart screwdriver. Not that there's anything wrong with Kmart, but he gets the best tool he can. And when you were mentioning about people losing fingers on the mandolin, I had more trouble with a cheap mandolin than just spending the $100 and getting the good mandolin that's got a nice sturdy base. I'm not putting it over a bowl, and it's much safer. It's much sturdier. I did cut myself several times on less expensive mandolins. I tried less expensive blenders, and finally, I've got the Vitamix behind me as well. It's just those things help make my life easier, and they help make my prep easier. I do use the dehydrator to make apple chips for my grandkids. They love the dehydrated apple chips that I mandolin down, either the Gala or the Fuji apples. I core them and put them in the Excalibur, and it only takes about 8 hours for them to turn in. And I put a little cinnamon on them, and they will eat those for snacks the whole time they're here. The first thing they ask me when they come in the door is, Grandma, do you have chippies? And they either want the apple chips or the sweet potato chips, which I don't feel guilty at all about giving them sweet potato chips. It's a vegetable.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, I just checked in Amazon and I posted a link to the Mistrad 2 for less than $9. When I bought mine years ago, it was like $20 for one.
Yep. I buy, and like I said, I stack them 4 because they tend to cook better. It takes a little longer, but they don't burn as quickly. If you only have the 2 in there at once, I really have to watch it because they'll burn really quickly. So, but no, I have an addiction to kitchen toys. But like I said, when you go to do any kind of job, if you go to get your hair done, she doesn't have a $2 blow dryer and a $3 curling iron she's using. You have tools that you need to make your product the best it can possibly be. And I know you've always said, buy the best that you can afford. And so I just, every 3 to 4 months, I would save up until I could get exactly what I wanted. Or they would say, what do you want for Christmas, Mom? I want my Vitamix. And then I get the grain attachments so that I could do my, make my own flours. Cause I had all these little bags of like little bits of stuff. And the same thing with the nut milk. All of the additives, the carrageenan and all of the things in the milk that I have a really hard time finding the ones that don't have that in it. And to just be able to pop the nuts in there and then make the cashew milk and it's fresh. Oh, you can't compare the taste and the flavor to where.
And I love the Nutrimilk just as a food processor because it's just so much quicker than my Cuisinart. It's just so much stronger. And it's got the mint ice cream in, or nice cream. I made that in the Nutrimilk yesterday, and it turned out really nice because it doesn't overblend to where it turns almost like a milkshake. It actually kept it nice and thick so that you could use an ice cream scoop for it. I also have the Champion juicer to where I make my grandkids the frozen fruit and ice cream, and they absolutely love it. They absolutely love it. So that's how I'm trying to, I guess, worm my way into their whole food, plant-based lifestyle, is finding things they enjoy. And at least when they come to grandma's, they can have those things. And I agree, even though it sounds expensive going in a Nutrimilk or a Breville, it's really an investment in your health is what it is.
And the Smart Oven, it makes the best veggie pizza. I mean, it really does. And the fact that you can use it as a convection oven, you can use it as an air fryer. And I had gotten a couple of the smaller air fryers with the little basket. And I mean, I don't know who those feed, but they don't feed me.
They don't feed anybody. You can get maybe like 8 ounces of mushrooms in there or one tiny potato. And it's just ridiculous. You can't feed anybody on a small, and when I use my small air fryer for is to roast garlic cloves. That it does that perfectly.
And so when I got the smart oven, and it had this nice big trays, and I could put a whole Hannah yam in there to make sweet potato fries, or a whole russet in there. It was really nice. And we also use it to warm up the bean burgers, because I make a batch of like 8 to 12 bean burgers ahead of time. And Steve doesn't like them to be, he likes them to be really crispy. And so he is really the king of warming things up, and he'll turn the air fryer on and preheat it and warm up his bean burger. And he adds red onion, and he adds sweet bell peppers. He adds, what else does he add? He adds like all kinds of stuff to his dill. There's a certain dill pickle that doesn't have any added anything to it that he'll put on it. But just these bean burgers are like this by the time he's done. And he really prefers them now over any kind of meat burger he had. And that at first was the hardest thing for him to give up, were the burgers and his prime rib or his New York strip. But now, you know, if he does eat something like that, he feels horrible the next day. I mean, you just feel loaded, you know, he just doesn't feel good. So he goes on a 5 to 6 mile hike every single day, or bike ride. He's very, very active for his age. And really, if you look at the before and after picture, he reversed his age by the way he looked. He looked so swollen and so puffy. I don't know if I showed that at the beginning or if it was after, but he just looked so miserable compared to the after picture. And like I said, it was only 8 months. And it was so funny because when he first started going plant-based, I don't know about you, but I used to get angry. This man ate from the time the sun came up until the sun went down, and he was dropping weight like crazy. And at that time, I was measuring, I was counting, I was weighing every single thing I put in my mouth, trying to maintain my weight and working out. And he would just be like free eating. And he's dropping 5, 6 pounds, because he was totally whole food plant-based at that point, and I had not transitioned all the way. So that was another very freeing thing, not to have to worry about weighing everything you put in your mouth or calculating every single thing you put in your mouth, and just worry about, is it good for me? You know, and I love it when people, you know, I tell the people, I try to end my Tasty Tuesday YouTube every day with plants are the best medicine. I mean, really, they 19 years on anxiety medication and 3 months, and I was off it, you know, and I had tried going off it and I just couldn't. And the inflammation in my back, it was horrible to have to carry, you know, every time you went on a trip, you got the Gabapentin, you've got the Robaxin, you've got the AdvilPM, wondering if you're going to be able to sleep in the bed at the hotel. And it was horrible. And now I go hiking with Steve, we go walking, all of those things. And I don't have to take any of those drugs. So it's just so freeing, and makes you feel so much better not to be dependent on those prescriptions.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to both you and your husband. Elizabeth says, do you have a before picture of you? But you really didn't have weight issues, right?
I yo-yo dieted off and on my whole life, to be honest with you. I'd gain 10 pounds, I'd lose 10 pounds. I never was obese, but I did have a higher percentage of body fat than I should have. You can be skinny fat, which is a term I hadn't been familiar with until I started working out at the gym and things. But, and I was more worried about, honestly, dementia. My mom is 85. In the past 4 years, she has suffered tremendously with dementia, and watching that. And the last thing I want, the Sure's eyes are just phenomenal with their research and what they're doing with, dementia prevention. And the fact that I do not want to be like that. I do not want to have to go down that road. I don't want my brain clogged up. I want my arteries functioning. So to see those family histories and know you don't have to be afraid of that just by changing what you eat, to me is a miracle almost. That, just eat plants and be healthy. So
how long did it take you? There's a question. How long did it take you to reverse the RA?
It wasn't RA, it was osteoarthritis. And actually, when I got the inflammation down, it really, really got a lot better. It took about 3 months before I went off the Robaxin, off the Gabapentin, and off the, I was taking AdvilPM every night to sleep. And then my son's like, well, Mom, you know, AdvilPM's got Benadryl in it, and they've linked that to dementia. I'm like, oh, great. So getting off those things really, really helped. This is, not only do we share the same initials, but our puppies are very similar looking.
Oh, you got a Havanese.
This is Phanni. She'll be 9 in May, and she is the biggest veggie dog ever. She paws at my leg every time I cut cucumbers or sweet peppers or snow pea pods or green beans. She loves grape tomatoes right out of the garden. So yeah, she's my little vegan dog. She does get some dog food that has meat.
Yeah, same here for Bailey. Once you have a Havanese, it's hard to get anything else, isn't it? They're so amazing. They call them Velcro dogs, and you know why.
Oh yeah, she wants to be right near me.
I know. I love that about, especially because I love that about her. So Bobby says, please tell Angie about the Breville Sous Chef 16-cup dicer food processor. She can slice everything and never risk cutting herself. Plus, it's got a powerful motor to make nice cream without even requiring liquid. Not to mention, it slices, shreds, dices, minces. It's essential for whole food plant-based chefs.
And I have it. I have the Breville 16-cup sous chef underneath my cabinet as well. And I do love it. I use it for making my bean burgers. I use it, but I do find that the Nutrimelt makes the nice cream, or the Champion Juicer makes the nice cream just a little bit better than the food processor.
I agree with you, because you don't need any liquid if you're doing Nutrimilk or Champion. I want to thank Ask Alina for the super chat donation. She says, thank you, Chef. Because of you, I got off oils and my life is lovely. And the mandolin that you were using unsafely without a glove, what brand is it, they're asking?
It's an OXO.
Great.
Oh, I believe is how it's called. I got it at Bed Bath & Beyond. I don't know if they make this particular exact model anymore, and the only blade I ever use really is the slicing blade. But it's so easy to clean, and it just folds up, stores right into the cupboard. And I use it a lot. I use it for just about everything especially my chips. It makes just the nicest, thinnest, little crispest chips that you can make.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. This wonderful presentation, getting to know you, and for feeding your family and your grandchildren so healthfully.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Great. And guys, check out Angie's YouTube channel. So is it live, or is it you just put a new episode up every Tuesday?
I put an episode up every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And it's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm up to about 90 some subscribers, and I've promised that as soon as I hit 100 subscribers, I'm going to do a giveaway. I'm going to give away a little mini waffle maker. And then at 500, I'll give away something again. Really just getting started with that. Like I said, technology has not been my friend, and neither has COVID, but this is what my first giveaway will be, and I'll give it away live. They do have to subscribe, and my webpage is transitionnutrition.fitness, and they can subscribe there, or they can subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Well, that'd be great. I'm sure we could get you 10 subscribers, if not 500 today. So guys, subscribe. You could win a prize.
Yes, I love the giveaways. I think it's fun. I use plant-based Gabriel's cinnamon roll waffle recipe, and I make the little waffle bowls and put the nice cream in kids, and they love it. So anything you can do to get those plants in there.
So do they have to watch live to be in the giveaway, or just subscribe?
No, just subscribe.
That's fantastic. Thank you. That sounds amazing. This was a wonderful presentation, and I really appreciated everything except for not using a mandolin glove, because I'm telling you, I've seen it. I have seen people just cut their thumb off, and it hurts so much.
And if you notice, I only went halfway down my cucumber.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I have the glove in my drawer. Like I said, when I'm doing a lot of it, and I'm not just doing a few pieces here and there, I get it out. But to put it on and off today for the presentation, I was like, it's going to skip it.
I just get a nervous Nelly, but thank you. It was a beautiful presentation. The recipe looks amazing, and you've made me very hungry. So thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in 2 hours when we have another wonderful cooking presentation by Talia Furman. She's the oldest daughter of Dr. Joel Furman, and she has a new book coming out either today or tomorrow called Desserts to Live For. Thanks again, Angie. Bye-bye.